Welcome back to another episode from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Doc Jen.
And I'm Dr. Tom.
And today we are talking about jaw issues. So whether you feel pain when you open up really big, or maybe you're hearing clicking and noises, maybe you clench, maybe you're grinding at night, what is happening? We're going to dive into it all here.
All right, diving in on another one that I think a lot of people deal with, myself included, especially at night, jaw pain from clenching, from teeth grinding. We're going to talk a little bit into what could contribute to this potentially, but jaw pain, what do we call this?
So a lot of people know it as TMJ, like, oh, my TMJ hurts. Well, we all have a TMJ.
Yeah, the TMJ is the temporomandibular joint.
Yes, and we're going to explain a little bit more about that, just so that you have some understanding. I think better education about your own body gives you the power back into your hands as to what's happening. But really, whenever you're getting clicking or pain around the jaw, it can even be like maybe it's not on the jaw, but it's associating with headaches, it's associating with neck pain, it's associating, especially if you're like opening and closing or doing anything like that associated with the jaw and those noises or locking of the jaw. That's TMD. So
temporomandibular disorders.
Yeah.
It's your jawbone and then your cheekbone where they meet. Pretty much what it is. The jawbone, if you grab the thing that your teeth are attached to, it's called your mandible. And then this little thing that kind of the thing that sticks out is actually called the zygomatic arch. Not related. The mandible goes kind of underneath that and then touches into this thing called your temporalis, which is basically the side of your head where your temple is, kind of on that temporalis. And there's a little disc in between those that's almost like the cushy meniscus of your TMJ.
You're not having pain with the clicking and popping. And if it's not associated to anything that's holding you back from being able to take a big bite or any function that you need in your life, then it's not really bad. But it's really the symptoms that are associated around that we want to pay attention to.
And the symptoms of this can be pretty severe. I know that I do a lot of clenching at night. And I, when I was young, ground my teeth literally to the point that I killed a couple of my baby teeth when I was young. And my parents were like, what in the heck are you doing? It sounds like you're grinding stone tablets together in the middle of the night, which if you've ever heard anybody grind their teeth, it's pretty graphic sounding.
Luckily, you don't grind like that anymore. No. It's more like clicking if it's happening.
Yeah, I kind of chatter my teeth at night.
And then there's some little grinding if you're, again, if you're not wearing your retainer. So you're using something to help with this, which we can.
For me, when I would be kind of clenching my jaw all night, and then the next day I'd be like, oh my gosh, my jaw is so sore.
Yeah.
That masseter muscle is just basically spasming because it's so tight and it's so used to being in that really short flex position.
The other muscles that could be affected as well, which you kind of mentioned before, the temporalis. So think of your temple. That's the muscle right on top of that. When we clench really hard, we feel it pop out of our fingers, right? And so this is also a muscle that can get affected. And then we have some muscles deeper inside our mouth, which are not fun to get manual work on. Those are like, oh, what is happening back there? But something that physical therapists or clinicians can do when we put gloves on, put our fingers in your mouth and start to explore way back into where that jaw connects. And then we're looking at the pterygoids, so medial and lateral pterygoids. And there's certain releases that you could do on yourself with those as well. Locking really is when it can get a little more significant. If you can't fully open your mouth or you can't fully close your mouth, that's something that might, you definitely would want to go get looked at. But even things like headaches, neck pain, things with our hearing, ringing in our ears, because our acoustic canal, or where our ear is, comes out right behind this TMJ. So if we're always clenching, always putting so much pressure in that area, we can even affect some of the things going on with our auditory or our listening system. Exactly. And when it comes to, being able to really diagnose, there's so many different things that we've looked at over the years of how to really diagnose this. But overall, we know that it is encompassing the whole thing, which is what we usually talk about when we're talking about pain. We're looking at a biopsychosocial model. So that means not only biologically what's happening with my body, but psychology, what's happening around my mindset, my stress, all of that. And then socially, what's happening in life. So we have to look at the full spectrum when we're looking at this. It can be more associated specifically with the jaw, especially if we're having clicking, popping, locking, any of that. So that's more of like that intra-articular part of the area. And then we also have the extra-articular, which is all the muscles we kind of went into, and the neck pain and the ear symptoms. Like, so the things happening around that jaw.
We always talk about looking at the joints above and below. And so we mentioned neck pain. I mean, our big ropey muscles on the front of our neck, the SCMs, those attach right up in the back of our skull. The same as our traps. They attach all the way up through our upper neck. And that's going to change the position of our head, which is then going to change the position of the jaw and might put our masseter, our temporalis, in a different position and require it to work differently. To get a good idea of why our jaw is operating the way it's operating, you still got to look at the whole body.
Right, exactly. And so functionally what we're looking at, if we're talking about jaw opening, we want to at least functionally be able to open to 3 finger width inside the mouth. And that's long way. So putting your hand up and down and then putting 3.
I think got 4.
Oh my gosh. And if we're looking at all the motions that the jaw is doing, we have the opening, closing, lateral excursions. So just going side to side, but like really keeping it kind of parallel to the top of your mouth, and then protrusion and retrusion. So then it comes down to, okay, well, what do I do if I'm having this kind of stuff happening? And first of all, as with anything, if you're getting pain with something, you don't want to just be trying to diagnose through a podcast or through social media. Like, we're here to educate you as to what's happening, and maybe you can start to explore it so that you don't get symptoms down the road. But also, I think it's so important to go get checked from your local physician or from your local physical therapist. You know, and sometimes it does take a team approach to really approach what's happening. Maybe it does take going to see your dentist, as well as working with your physical therapist, as well as working with a psychologist to see how we can manage other areas of life.
Oh yeah, I know that the reason I clench at night is mostly because of stress, whether I'm underslept or whether I go to bed thinking about too much, and then I just hold a lot of my tension in my jaw throughout the night. And one thing that we can do, multiple things that we can do to reduce stress: breathing.
Oh, weird. That breath work thing came up again.
I mean, even if I go to my ideal like down regulation nighttime routine, it has to do with taking a bath, taking a warm bath, listening to some music, listen to those mellow moods, frequency 433 or whatever it is you're into these days. Just to kind of get that system to start to relax, take some things off your mind, get your body and all of the muscles to start to chill out a little bit. Generally, when I'm taking a bath, I'm doing either long exhales, long like down regulation breaths, like we talk about in some previous podcasts, to get my nervous system just to go from that more sympathetic work mode, fight flight mode, to, all right, it's time to relax. It's time to digest all the food and get our body ready to sleep.
Breath work, it doesn't have to be some crazy holotropic type of, breath pattern that's really aggressive. This literally can mean 5 minutes while you're in bed and laying down to go to sleep. And I love to direct it around the rib cage because it just helps you to get back into your body, feel what's happening, and get yourself out of like the day-to-day stressors of what is usually causing the stress. So I like to place the hands, along that low rib cage, give it a little squeeze, and then see and like observe within your body. As I take an inhale, can I relax my shoulders? Can I relax my neck? Can I feel my rib cage expand? And then can I take an even longer exhale? Can I feel my hands start to come together a little bit more? Can I relax my belly? Do I feel like I'm tensioning my shoulders? Can I relax those? And when you start to tap into what is my body just doing, like already that's going to get you out of a stressful state because you're not thinking of other things. You're like just now tapping in. And so that's a great tool, whether you're at work, whether you're in the car right before you go into the crazy house, whether you're going to sleep, whether you're in the bath, do the breath work. And if you're unsure of what's happening around the neck or the chest area, give yourself an opportunity a couple times a week to just give 5 breaths in front of a mirror and see what's happening at the neck, see what's happening at the shoulders. See if as you take an inhale, your neck is really shooting on, your shoulders are rising. I think that's such a beneficial way to start to address I am holding a lot of stress in my body.
There's something I like to call the 6-pack exercises. No, we're not talking 6-pack core. We're talking the 6 movements that the jaw does. It's almost like your jaw yoga. Like, stick your tongue to the roof of your mouth. First thing, that's kind of a parasympathetically driven thing. When you kind of like massage the roof of your mouth with your tongue, it kind of activates some of our parasympathetic nerves in there and gets our vagus nerve thinking. And then the first thing we want to do is kind of depress our jaw, or open our mouth as wide as we can, and take about 6 seconds to go through that. Because then again, you're taking that conscious moment to kind of train your jaw, like, okay, this is the full range that we have, and do it in a nice, relaxed state with that tongue stuck to the roof of the mouth. The next one is elevation. So starting from all the way down, you can just do these one after another. Slowly come back up, keeping that tongue stuck to the roof of your mouth. Then we go into protrusion. 6 seconds to push all the way into that underbite. 6 seconds to push all the way back into the overbite. And then lateral excursion either way. And try to just take your time and go through these. You could do 1 rep of each if that's all you had time for, and that's going to be better than running right through your day and diving into bed and trying to go to sleep.
Exactly. And I like to do these, especially initially in front of a mirror too, because you get to see what is happening, and it just increases the awareness of, oh, I'm opening and my jaw is like shooting to the right, or I can't quite stay in a straight line, or maybe I don't need to open as wide because then it's causing pain.
One of the next things that is great to do, it kind of goes with that retrusion of the chin, but it's just retracting the neck also, because it kind of goes with that, getting the head nice and tall, starting to move through the spine and through the cervical spine or the neck a little bit, and then retract that jaw, get that head nice and tall, and then relax away. And just doing that 5-6 times can really start to kind of reposition and reprime that jaw.
There's no one perfect position that we're ever trying to go into. We've said this before, the best position is the next position. And so even that chin tuck, you don't want to be there all day long. We're finding awareness and we're getting our body in there, but it's the same with like our upper back. And so if you were to just take time every 30 minutes and maybe you let your back round and then you open up your back, or you twist side to side and then you do some of those neck retractions and then you do some breathing and then you get back into the workflow, it takes 2 minutes to reset everything. And I guarantee you're going to start to feel a lot better if you do that on a consistent and daily basis. Like, find opportunities, find moments to take breaks. 2 minutes, 1 minute, it doesn't need to take a whole lot of time to start priming the system and feeling something different. The next thing that we really want to go into as well, and it's just kind of functional, like along with if you're having jaw pain, well then maybe we're avoiding some foods that are super hard right now. And require a lot of grinding or biting. Like, you think of hard carrots, maybe we're warming them and heating them, take some time away from these foods. Or maybe I'm not having a huge burger or a huge burrito because it's going to make my jaw have to open to a limit that doesn't feel comfortable right now. So we always want to work within our function and within our range and then keep going from there. You just want to start to become more aware. And what I try to think of too, just throughout the day, is I want my mouth closed and I want to be nose breathing as much as I can. If I'm not talking, mouth is closed and nose is doing the work. And I want to I have like a separation between my teeth and my tongue kind of rests up at the top of my mouth. 1, like you said, it's going to help to stay in that parasympathetic relaxed state. And then 2, I'm not putting that extra pressure into my jaw.
So again, setting aside the intentional time or being intentional in your daily practice to be able to implement some of these things. Like, I think my jaw clenching does the best when I'm consciously stopping and taking 10 breaths, or taking a 1-minute reset every hour or 2, or making sure I'm getting in some breath work at morning, at night, doing some conscious journaling. If you find those practices that help reduce the stress in your life, you're going to find the practices that help you hold less tension in your entire body, let alone in your jaw.
It all works together. So how can we get outside more? How can we get into nature? How can we get off screens more? How can we come back to breath work? How can we connect with our community and with people? It all plays a role in any kind of pain, but even jaw pain.
And there we have it. TMJ disorders, your temporomandibular joint. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about why you might be holding that tension in the jaw and what's causing those symptoms, and a few ideas on how to get rid of it. Subscribe, comment below, let us know if you have any questions, and let us know what you need or want to learn so that we can come with the answers in the future.